Good morning, 828 Church. Woo, that was a little weak. Good morning, 828 Church. Woo. Man, I am so excited to be here this morning in the family room with my North Carolina family. And speaking of family, once again, I have my beautiful wife, Angela, sitting here on the front row. As you saw, I have my son-in-law and youngest daughter, Joseph and Macy, here with their four, Judah, Jeremiah, Mary, and Phoebe Lou. I see Mary and Phoebe Lou sitting over there. And then I have my oldest daughter, Brooke, and her husband, Damien, and they brought three of their kids, Finley, Fisher over there, and then three of their six kids, Finley, Fisher, and then Foster's back in the other room. So, man, I'm excited this morning. I'm surrounded by family all the way around, and I'm stoked. And Ron, I don't want to miss this moment to say I'm honored by you to be able to share this space this morning, you know. And it's a privilege to rub shoulders with you and Leah and the lead team. And I'm always better for it when I'm here, and I love you guys. So now we're in a series this morning called Centered. And what a word last week from Ron as the series started. My favorite quote that he gave was this: it's the question isn't whether something is at the center of your life, but rather who or what that something is. You see, what I found about God, and it's not comfortable to me or to you, but what God will do, he will expose every what or who that we place in the center of our lives, not to harm us. He doesn't want to hurt us, but out of love for us, he wants to bring us back to healthy wholeness in our spiritual life. He wants to bring us back to centered in Jesus. So, and that's exactly what I want to talk to you about this morning. Now, it's going to be a little vulnerable on my part. There's a series of events over the past couple of years that have really, shaken some areas of my life. And God has exposed some areas in my life that aren't completely Christ-centered. And I want to share those with you. It helped me. I'm praying it'll help you guys. I know the Holy Spirit will speak through it this morning. So when I was a young boy, I told this story for the first time in Africa. I went this past year to a young man who came to one of the smallest services we had. But man, God just leapt inside of my heart and told me, you need to tell this story about a father who always comes back. And I told this story right here. When I was a young boy, my dad would take me hunting. And he would like to slip through the woods real quiet, and he would look for movement and look for deer. But he knew I was way too noisy to slip through the woods. And so he would sit me by a tree, sit me on a stump, sit me on a log or something, and said, boy, you just stay here, and I'm going to be back. He said, it may be a minute, but I'm going to be back. Well, I didn't know it'd be that many minutes some days. He was staying on for a long time. And I was good, Ron, as long as the sun was shining. Squirrels were hopping through where I was. I would stay pretty close. Everything was good until that sun went down behind the trees. And I'm a little guy, and I'm sitting there alone. And boy, that darkness starts coming in. Whoo! And them woods be talking ugly to me. They're telling me stories, y'all, that I don't want to hear. And I would begin to have this fear and anxiety that would rise up inside of me as I sat there as a little boy. The what ifs that we all face in life. Some of these are true what ifs that I would ask as a boy. My mind would tell me my dad should have been back by now. It's getting dark, y'all. And what if he got lost? What if he can't find his way back to me? What if he's hurt somewhere? What if he doesn't come back and I got to spend the night in these deep, dark woods? And then your mind's rolling. They're going to find me 10 years later, and I'm going to still be sitting against this tree, a little skeleton sitting here, That's the way your mind does when the what ifs run rampant. What if they never find me? What if, and this is raw, what if he abandons me? As a little boy, that's legitimate questions. What if he doesn't come back for me? Now my dad wasn't perfect, but he was a great dad who would never leave me alone. If he had any way to come back and get me by that tree, he was going to be there. So these fears were completely unwarranted, yet I sat there as the sun would set and the darkness encroached, full of anxiety and what-if fears. My dad had always come back, but maybe this was the time he didn't. Whew. The bottom line was that I was wrestling with this question. Can I trust my dad to come through for me? Every time. Can I trust him? As I grew up, I honestly thought that I had matured, that I had grown out of these little what-ifs, these trust issues. But in the past couple of years, I found that the roots of my trust issues were still alive and well down in there. And they were trying to produce some fruit, Ron. I still found myself asking this deep question. Can I trust my daddy? No longer my earthly dad. But can I trust my heavenly Father? Can I trust Papa God? Can I trust Jesus to come through for me in every situation? Or will this be the time that he doesn't? Let me give you a short rundown of a few of the events that exposed these hidden fears in my life. Just over 2 years ago, I was on church staff with my late son-in-law that I honestly loved dearly, who was my pastor at the time. And yet he made a series of terrible choices, and he wouldn't humble himself, and he wouldn't repent, and he wouldn't turn back to God. And he was in the middle of these choices and still trying to pastor the church he planted with. I don't know if you're like me, but if I'm following somebody and they're going a place that I don't feel like I can go, then they can't be my leader anymore. And so he was still trying to pastor this church and in a bunch of crazy lifestyle choices, and it caused me to resign, losing our only source of income. My son-in-law, who you saw up here just a minute ago, him and my daughter were on church staff with us also. They were youth pastors. And they resigned close to the same time as us, which segued them to South Mississippi, which all the way to Alaska now. So when I resigned, it caused us to lose our only source of income, Angela. And not only did we lose our income, we lost our sense of church family. We lost our sense of community in the messiness and the manipulation of the situation. And those choices ultimately cost him his life. Just 4.5 short months later, which sent me into full-blown dad, protector, provider, comforter, do all the things, try to soften the blow for my family any way I could, which is heavy. And before the dust settled, we had kids and grandkids in 3 different states. We were used to them being around us. We had them in Alaska. We had them in Texas. My daughter and 3 grandkids moved to Texas to be with my son and his 3. We had them in Louisiana. We had a daughter and a son-in-law in Louisiana, but none of them were close to us at that time. And that's where we lived, in Louisiana. And we began to fast and pray and even reach out. I reached out to you several times, Ron, to get some outside perspective. Hey, how do we handle this? And as we prayed, we eventually sold our house and farm we had been at for 30 plus years and headed west to Texas, where most of our kids and grandkids were. 6 of them were there, which also put us closer to Alaska via DFW Airport. Nothing's quick getting to Alaska, but it's quicker than Louisiana, trust me. So put us closer to everybody. We left our comfort, Angela. We left our memories. We left the childhood memories. We left everything familiar in our best effort to follow God, centered on Him, and to be there for our family. We had no idea how hard it was going to be, did we? During this time, I was dealing with grief and pain and the weight of responsibility, the weight of regrets, tremendous change. Whew, it was tough. And right in the beginning of this, we got a letter from the IRS saying that they were auditing us for 3 years of taxes. And it was because the lady we were using she wanted a quick paycheck, and she just like took our taxes and threw them at the IRS, and it was a mess. And for the whole time that we waited through for 2 years, these other unfortunate, tragic circumstances, I was digging through paperwork, trying to prove our expenses to people who had already decided we were guilty. And I did it. I got it reduced some, but they still took a lot of money. But in my mind, they were taking money that I had no income to replace. That money was going to allow us to travel, to be around our grandkids that we love so dearly, to be around our extended family. We'd have a little cushion there. And this was the icing on a 2-year cake, the proverbial straw that about broke this whole camel's back. Whew. Tough times. My mind was running rampant once again with the what ifs, except for they weren't childish what ifs anymore. These were adult what ifs. What if I would have reached out one more time to my son-in-law? Maybe it would have prevented what happened. I don't think so, but maybe. What if this grief that's killing me doesn't get better? I don't know if I can live with this. What if the trauma scars my grandkids? What if life never is the same with my family spread out in so many areas? We're so used to them being close to us. What if I can't be around all my grandkids, watching them grow and mature? What if I never get a decent paying job again? I ain't getting no younger, y'all. They giving them to young folks. Woo! What if I never get a clear assignment again from God? I mean, it's been just a wrestle trying to figure out what's our next move, what's our next step. It's been so muddy trying to hear from God. What if the IRS takes all our money and leaves us broke, busted, disgusted, and folks think we can't be trusted? Whew. Maybe these seem so trivial to you, but if I'm being completely honest with you guys, there were some deep, dark nights. Whew. The thoughts, the emotions during those nights were so dark. Ron, I would wonder if I had the strength to face the next day. Hard times. I knew that I had to do what 2 Corinthians 5:7 says. For we walk by faith and not by sight. And I know, God, I got to walk by faith. I'm trying my best to walk by faith and not by sight. And I didn't have much sight. Now, if you're new and wondering what faith is, simply put, faith is believing that Jesus is everything he says he is, and he will do everything he says he will do, no matter if you can't see it. And we couldn't see it. And by that same faith, I knew that Jesus was worthy. He was faithful. He was trustworthy, and I could build my life. I could place my issues, my hard times straight in the center of him, and I knew he would take care of me. But yet here I was, living in faith but walking in fear and anxiety. Then one day I was out praying. I walk and pray at night. I was out praying, and it would comfort my heart to tell God what he was to me. Say, Jesus, you are love, and I know you love me no matter what it looks like. You're my deliverer. You're going to deliver me. My soul will live to sing again. I know that. You are my provision, and you're going to take care of my needs. You are my comfort, my strength. You're faithful. And God, I'm going to do what Proverbs 3:5 says. I am going to trust in you with all of my heart, and I'm not going to lean on my understanding. It was a call. It was a call I heard in my spirit right in that. I said, God, you are worthy of my trust. And I'm out praying. And then God whispered to me. He didn't whisper to my ears. He whispered to my spirit. He said this to me. He said, Todd, trust me. Just trust me. And I'm like, God, I'm trying to trust you. He said, no, with everything. He said, with everything. He said, you're never going to move past this place you're in until you trust me. It's a call that he said to go a little bit deeper in faith. If faith is believing Jesus is everything he says he is and will do everything he says he will do, even if you don't see it, trust is the action to that faith. Trust is the obedience. Trust is putting your feet moving forward into what he's called me to. And at this moment, the only thing I knew he was calling me to was to trust him. Let me illustrate that for you for just a second. There was a man named Charles Blondin who successfully crossed the Niagara Falls on a tightrope several times. He would do tricks even on this tightrope. He walked across it blindfolded. I can't even walk across this stage putting one foot in front of the other, but he walked across blindfolded. Then he even walked across some sort of stilts. I didn't see what they looked like, but in stilts. And then he came back across from some of these tricks. The crowd was roaring, and they were so impressed with him. And he said, how many of you believe that I can carry somebody on my back across these Niagara Falls? The crowd was like, yeah, we believe you can do it. We believe you can do it. And he's like, all right. Will somebody volunteer? You know, it's like when you're little and your folks ask you, did you do that? And you're like, silence in the crowd. Silence in the crowd. See, this is what the crowd had faith. They believed that he could do it, but they weren't willing. They didn't trust enough to put their lives on the line as he stepped out into the unknown where they could fall to their death. They wouldn't trust him enough to do that. And finally, his manager, Harry Concord, with the crowd in disbelief, actually, it's a true story, actually climbed on Blondin's back, piggyback style, wrapped his arms, wrapped his legs around him as Blondin walked him across the Niagara Falls. That's faith. You're going to get on somebody's back and walk across, let him walk you across. That's faith. There's a paraphrased version of 2 Timothy 1:12 that I want to say, for this reason I also suffer these things. Nevertheless, I'm not ashamed, for I know I'm intimate with who I've believed. I'm intimate with who I've placed my trust in. And I'm persuaded. Listen, I'm persuaded, which means I'm convinced. I am choosing to deeply trust that person I am putting my trust in will be able to carry me on his back, centered in him, across the tightrope of life. He's able to keep everything that I choose to commit to him until that day. Here's the takeaway for you. Trust is making the willful choice to center your life slap dab in the middle of Jesus, putting your everything in his hands. Now, I have to say, Jacob, this morning that Jesus has proven himself trustworthy. We sang about that earlier, too. He's proven himself trustworthy to me for years and years, and I have absolutely no reason not to trust him. Yet, here I am. I found myself struggling deeply. Will he do it this time? You see, it's easy to trust when you're prospering, but when life turns into those deep, dark woods that are encroaching around you, that trust is tested. Can I really trust him? Can I really, 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 really trust him when I have nothing else to lean on and no one else to turn to? Whew. And as I prayed through this in my night, as I struggled through, I earnestly wanted freedom. And God exposed something to me. He exposed the who that Ron talked about. There was a who in the center of my life. And this who had great intentions to protect me and my family, Joseph. He had great intentions. But in truth, he was keeping me from experiencing the very freedom I needed. And that who was me. Whew. Unknowingly, I'd done put me up in the center of my life. I noticed I had no problem trusting God with the fact that he would provide everything I needed. He wasn't going to leave me. He was going to come back for me. I knew that. But the struggle, the fear was with my desires, with my wants, with my expectations. I wanted things to work out the way I wanted things to work out. Me in the center. God, I know that you can and will provide for my every need, but I really don't want to give up this hard-earned money to tax penalties and interest, which will cause my bank account to get low, causing me to struggle financially. I didn't want to do that. I know that I won't starve, but I want that nice cushion because it's comfortable. God, I know that you will bring me through this, whatever this is, but I don't want to suffer along the way. Just bring me through it already. Man, God, I know that you will make a way where there is no way visible, but I don't want to have to wait and feel vulnerable, waiting for my dad to come back in the darkness. That's scary. God, I know that you're able to heal these wounds, but can we just skip the pain in the process? I so wanted peace in my mind and emotions, but I was holding tightly, trying to control my life and my future. And God, through this dark struggle, brought me to the revelation that I now believe is absolutely essential to real trust in him that produces peace in every difficult season. And that revelation is called surrender. Now, that's an easy word to say, but that's a hard word to live, especially in a dark time. Surrender. I've come to know that trust and surrender are inseparable. You can't fully trust and hold back from God. You can't fully trust and try to control a situation. It won't work. I tried it. It won't work. So to fully trust means that you fully surrender. We see that in the story of Job. And I don't know about you, but it struck me how easily I read through, especially the first chapter of Job. I can just sail through that. But man, put yourself in Job's position just a minute. He awoke one day living a fat life. Man, he had 10 children. He had many servants. He had so much livestock, which meant he was extremely wealthy in those days. The Bible says he's the richest man in the East. Man, he was LG. He's life's good. And then by the end of the very next day, if you remember the story, most of his servants were dead. All of his livestock were dead or stolen. All 10 of his children were dead. Can you imagine his parents? All 10 of your children dead? He was broke, y'all, in more ways than one. But look at how Job reacted after that catastrophic day. Listen to how he reacted to that tragic news. In Job 120, it said, Job got up. He tore his robe. He shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship. You know what worship is? Worship is prostrate. It's a position of surrender. Job, after all of that, got in a position of surrender before God. Even shortly after that, he was covered with horrible sores causing tremendous pain that rocked his body, and he was dealing with despair that ravished his soul. He was full of doubts. He was full of grief. And even in the middle of these horrendous circumstances, this mind-blowing loss, feeling that the very God who he had chosen to follow was behind some of this hard times, Job made this powerful statement in Job 13:15. And I love these words. He said, though he slay me, yet I will surrender. I will trust him. That's real, y'all. And then we see that modeled in Jesus, certainly last but certainly not least. We see this same revelation of surrender. Jesus was facing a horrible death so that you and I could be centered in his peace and in his love. And his prayer portrayed that ultimate trust and surrender. He said, Father, if it's your will, let this cup pass from me. I don't want to go through this. But nevertheless, I'm going to lay me aside. Not my will. I'm not going to be in the center. God, you're going to be in the center. Whew. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And everybody here, pay attention to this. That word surrender is a revelation. It's the truth about trust. It's the secret sauce to your trust that you will need to have your life centered in Jesus. You may not need it today. Life may be good for you today. You may not need it tomorrow. Life may be good for you tomorrow, but what about that third day? That third day could rock your world where you do like Job. I got to surrender. That's the only way I know through is trust and surrender. As Carissa comes, take away. To truly walk in trust that brings peace to your thoughts, to your fears, to your very life will require surrender. Now, there's a picture illustration that I absolutely love. The picture is this little girl, and she's holding tight, squeezing a teddy bear. She's squeezing it tight. And opposite of her, we see Jesus with his hand outstretched. You guys have probably seen that illustration. He's got this big teddy bear, Victor, behind him. And he's in essence saying, would you surrender your small teddy bear? And in exchange, she didn't know it. She was holding tight, but in exchange, I want to give you a much larger teddy bear. You're going to love it. Trust says that I will not worry, fret, control, or manipulate this situation. I will place it, I will place me, I will place my family, I will place my hope, I will place my future, I will place my finances, I place everything at Jesus' feet. I surrender it to him. I release that small teddy bear that I'm holding on to, that I'm trying to control, knowing that as I release it, he's got something much larger and much better for me that I will enjoy so much more. He's got something better for me as I follow him and try my best to keep every thought, emotion, action, dream centered on him, which will produce lasting peace. Philippians 4, 6, and 7 says this, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And listen to this, and the peace of God which surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. That's good. Here's a takeaway for you. As we walk in faith and trust together that is surrendered to God's will, we will experience a supernatural peace that will guard our hearts and our minds as we keep them centered on Jesus. And I stand before you and I can truly say, look any of you guys in the eye and say that as I walk daily It takes a walk daily, surrender to Jesus. As I walk daily, I've experienced freedom from these what-if fears and anxious thoughts. I experience freedom as I surrender every ounce of me to Him. And I wrote a poem for you guys this morning. Our human hearts grow fearful, mostly of the unknown, a deep, unsettled dread of darkness, of a future not yet shown, a fear that forces each of us to believe in what we know or who we know, to believe in who He says He is, a belief that makes us grow. It's a faith that fights for freedom from the fears that creep inside. It's the faith that shows the next step in fully trusting we can abide. To step into that path of trust is laying down our all. It's waving high that white flag this young man was waving over here in worship. It's waving high that white flag. It's answering that higher call. It's crying out, your will be done, God, not an ounce of me. Whatever lies before my steps, I know it's going to be glorious to see, for I know your way is better, to prosper through the pain, to cry and sow and grieve and grow, clothed in holy gain. And the fruit, y'all, the fruit is peace that's constant, a peace so hard to understand, a peace that comes from knowing that you're centered in Jesus' hand. And listen to this, all them deep, dark nights, all the anxious thoughts of the what ifs, and now I lay me down to sleep. I can sleep, worry gone away. Presence of my Jesus, forever here to stay, centered in Him, Ron.